Okay, so welcome to the launch of Watching Through the Day. Julie Thorndyke, author, and Nandina Vines, illustrator. Hosted by me, Davd Reiter, publisher, Interactive Publications, Pty Ltd, Brisbane, Australia. And you'll see our website there if you want to make a note of that. We will be happy to see you visiting our site. All right, so Interactive Publications is an independent publisher based in Brisbane, founded in 1997. We publish under 4 imprints: Interactive Press, Glasshouse Books, IP Kidz, and the Digital Publishing Center. IP Kidz publish picture books and chapter books in print and digital formats and distributes them globally through partners such as Ingram International, Amazon, Google, Apple, Overdrive, Wheelers, and Gazelle UK. And here we have a picture of the front cover, the lovely front cover, illustrated by Nandina, our illustrator. And you'll notice that we've got a recurring link at the bottom of these pages, which goes directly to the Buy Now link, which I encourage everyone to copy down and make use of at the end of the presentation. We'll be repeating it throughout. If you have any problems, just go to our website, ipause.biz, sign on to the IP store, and that you can do a search from there. Okay, so pictures of Julie Thorndyke, our author, who will be speaking to you in a few minutes, as well as Nandina Vines, our illustrator. And we have Carolyn Alfonzetti. Is Carolyn signed on? Yes, I can see her there. Great. She lives adjacent to bushland in suburban Sydney. Her poems, articles, and short stories for adults are generally inspired by everyday life and the natural world, and have been published in mainstream magazines in Australia and the UK, as well as a variety of literary anthologies. Carolyn has had 3 books for children published: Rainforest Feasts, a picture book; Around the Globe with Gramps, a verse novella; and Rocky the Cocky, which she's holding proudly in her picture. Just released. Her poems and short stories for children have been published in the school magazine since 2007. In 1997, she was awarded Writing Fellow Class Membership of the Fellowship of Australian Writers New South Wales, and in 2014 received an FAW New South Wales Distinguished Service Award. So I'm going to turn it over to Carolyn, who's going to launch our book. Take it away, Carolyn.
Thank you for that introduction, David, and good afternoon, everyone. Julie Thorndyke and I first met many, many years ago now through the Eastwood Hills branch of the Fellowship of Australian Writers. We're a group who encourages each other to improve our writing, and we love to celebrate the achievements of our members. And in the super competitive world of children's book publishing, it is a huge achievement for a manuscript to catch the eye of a picture book publisher. So today I'm delighted to help celebrate the launch of Julie and Nandina's gorgeous picture book, Watching Through the Day. It's a perfect partner to Julie's previous book with IP Kidz, Waiting for the Night. Now, the first thing I notice when I look at this book is the child photographer front and center on the cover. I can't see this little person's face, and it could be a boy or a girl. And I'm sure this was so every child can imagine themselves behind that big red camera. The cover illustration hints at what happens inside, and also that it takes place at the seaside. And the title tells us it's during the day. The blurb on the back confirms this. Soldier crabs running, pippies wiggling, jellyfish floating, pelicans gliding. These are just some of the things you can photograph when you're out and about during the day. Then it tells us more and draws the reader in by asking, what photos of native creatures have you taken lately? The back also features some terrific reviews from those in the children's book industry. Now, for those of you who aren't picture book writers, I'll let you in on a little secret. It's one of the hardest forms of writing. It's true. Why? Because you have to let go of all control and trust an artist to tell with their pictures part of what you want to say. And this book is a perfect pairing of Julie's lovely use of language and Nandina's bold and colourful illustrations that tell us things Julie doesn't say. I'm not going to read Watching Through today to you, but I did want to speak just a little about what is inside. When we open it, we first see Nandina's beautiful end papers of a calm seascape. And when we turn to the title page, we meet Puss, who we later find out has missed all the action while the young camera person has been busy. Julie doesn't just write picture books. She is a novelist, a short story writer, and a published and prize-winning poet, and she's the editor of a poetry journal. As a poet, Julie has trained herself to look closely at things, as does the child in the centre of this book. I believe it's Julie's poetry expertise, especially in the forms of haiku and tanka, that enable her to write succinctly, smoothly, and with needle-sharp focus. Watching Through the Day is all about focus, not only because the word relates to cameras, but as each of the double-page spreads is a scene that pays close attention to just one creature the child sees during the day. And I have a soft spot for the many featured birds. Wagtail dances, chirps and prances with a lot to say. Red rosellas flaunt their feathers flying through the day. As you can hear, Julie effectively, but with a light hand, uses poetic devices such as rhyme, alliteration and repetition to bring a melodic quality to the text that is so appealing in a book designed to be read aloud. I especially love that the child in this book watches and photographs but does not touch or disturb the creatures they find. Without preaching, Watching Through the Day echoes that well-known conservation motto some attribute to the 19th century North American ecologist Chief Seattle. Take only memories, leave only footprints. Something we should all follow when observing nature. I love Watching Through the Day. I'm thrilled to announce it officially launched. I congratulate Julie, Nandina and IP Kidz on it and wish it the wide audience it deserves. And I'll now hand over to that talented duo, Julie and Nandina. Handing over to you, Julie.
I just want to thank Carolyn so much for her words today. Carolyn's been the welcoming face of Eastwood Hills Fellowship of Australian Writers for many years, and I think she was actually the first person I met when I went to the first meeting many years ago, and she's a wonderful writer and a wonderful support to all of us in the group. So thank you, Carolyn, very much for launching the book today. It's about 2 years ago when we launched first book, Waiting for the Night. And after that launch, many of you people helped me launch that book. I was keen to follow up with another one. So I seized the day and said to David, let's do another book. And he agreed. And so I thought it could be a daytime book this time. Waiting for the Night was a nighttime book. So I wanted a sunny daytime book. So I was thinking about the small creatures that we can see on any ordinary day in an Australian backyard, in the beach, or at the park. I spent some time observing in my garden, in the park, the bush and the waterways. The words arrived in short lines of poetry, matching the style of Waiting for the Night. Like haiku, but with rhyme and repetition, these little stanzas describe spiders, fish, birds and reptiles that children can easily observe in the wild. The title, Watching Through the Day, also mirrors the first book. It has a sunny yellow cover and contrasts with the nighttime book. The journey from idea to publication was much quicker this time. Davd Reiter promptly agreed. Thank you, David. And we found a new illustrator, the wonderful Nandina, who has a personal experience of the same landscapes that I was writing about. So it was a lovely match. I also need to mention my family at this point because they're very keen photographers and they take all sorts of photos when we're on holiday of kangaroos and crabs and all sorts of wonderful creatures. So that was an inspiration for this book. And in waiting for the night, the child had a torch. In watching through the day, the child has a camera. So there's also that similarity there. And I am going to read the book for you in a moment. But before I do, I was wondering if anybody knows what's in this box. Some people may recognize it. Let's have a look inside. Now I think people might know. Of course, it's a box brownie camera. This one's about 80 years old. And I remember as a child taking photos with it. It wasn't new then by any means, but we took photos on the holiday. And it has a little shutter. You look through the window, press the button, and it makes quite a loud click as the shutter moves to take the photo. Now, if you were on holidays and you want to take a photo, perhaps you've had of a jellyfish. You want to take a photo of a jellyfish, you look down and take a photo like that. And when I read the book, I'm going to ask everybody to make that sound when we take the photo. Can you make it sound like shutter? And there's something else I'd like you to do when we read the book. Do you know there's an Auslan sign for jellyfish? Very simple. It goes like this. And then we have a go at making the Auslan sign for jellyfish. So when we see the jellyfish, we're all going to do our Auslan sign. Okay, so let's read the book. Soldier crabs run in the hot sun, watching through the day. Hippies wiggle, neckty giggle, want to get away. Jellyfish float all round my boat, on the waves they sway. Now let's do that again. Everyone get the jellyfish. Jellyfish float all round my boat, on the waves they sway. Tiny white fish quickly vanish, swimming through the day. Pelicans glide home on the tide from the open bay. Mother magpie, babies nearby, scouts for food all day. Dragonfly wings, green, shimmering, hover through the day. Wagtail dancers, chirps and prancers with a lot to say. Crouching tree frog in the dark log won't come out to play. Red rosellas flaunt their feathers flying through the day. Little geckos lurk in shadows watching through the day. In her leaf curl, spider will twirl, web strung out for prey. At the back door, curled on the floor, Puss has dozed all day. All these faces take their places in my new display. Every snapshot shows what I caught watching through the day. And now I'm going to hand over to Nandina to tell us a bit about the beautiful pictures that she made for the book. Thanks, Nandina.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Caroline, and thank you, David. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. I was thrilled when David first contacted me to illustrate Julie's story. This was my first experience illustrating for an author and a publisher, and may I add, a huge learning curve for me, which I thoroughly enjoyed along the way. Julie's beautiful story and the animals, birds and fish she writes about reminded me of growing up in the coast, where I was fortunate enough to share my days watching and photographing many of the animals in the book. My inspiration for the illustrations came from my memories of pelicans gliding by in the bay, from jellyfish that would surround our boat when we were out fishing, and from springtime when families of magpies worked hard trying to satisfy the hungry squawking of their new babies. I spent the first half of my life by the seaside. I have been very lucky to have seen soldier crabs scuttling about on the shoreline and little silver fish darting about in the shallows. I have experienced doing the pippy twist. Has anybody ever done the pippy twist? It's good fun. And by doing the pippy twist, you can dig up the pippies with your toes. I've even eaten barbecued pippies. Yum. I live in the country now, but thankfully not too far from the ocean. When it rains at my home, the big green tree frogs climb out of the hollow posts in my fence and croak loudly to one another. And we have a family of cheeky willy wagtails who return every year to build their nests in the trees just outside my back veranda. In summer, we have an abundance of blue-tongued lizards lazing about on the warm pebbles around our pool and our front and back verandas. Once, we even had a bluey sharing dinner with our cats. I live near the bush and take my dogs for walks along the bush trails, where we see all kinds of animals and insects in their natural habitat, from leaf curl spiders to dragonflies and kangaroos. So you see, I've had lots of experience observing the types of animals and their behaviour that Julie writes about in watching through the day. I have always observed and photographed animals in nature, and so having the opportunity to illustrate them for watching through the day was a dream come true. I have been drawing and illustrating all my life and studied illustration at university. After uni, I found myself working as a graphic designer where I learned to illustrate using computer programs. It was through using computer programs and a drawing tablet that I created the illustrations for watching through the day. In my process of creating each drawing, I tried to imagine how the animals would look through a camera lens. I wanted the images to be bright and colourful to emphasise their natural beauty. Mostly I used my memories to make the illustrations, but also referred to online images as references for any details such as feathers, beaks and claws. I thoroughly enjoyed illustrating watching through the day, and I encourage everybody, whether you like to draw or photograph, to take notice of the animals and the insects in your backyard and your surrounds, for nature is truly beautiful and extremely interesting. Thank you, everybody.
Here we have the final slide, which shows our cover once again, the link to the Buy Now page, and also the image from Waiting for the Night, which was the prequel to Watching Through the Day. So on behalf of Julie and Nandina, I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today. So we have a few minutes if anyone wants to say anything to our to our guests, that would be great. Sorry.
Nandina, I'm a words person. I have no talent at all when it comes to drawing or painting. Can you tell me how long it took you to do all those gorgeous illustrations?
Many months. On and off many months. I'm a lot faster now. I'm illustrating 3 books at once at the moment for different authors. So I've become a lot faster. But as I said, that was my first time illustrating for an author and a publisher. So it was a bit experimental. But luckily I'd had that background training in traditional media at uni.
I'll just say congratulations, Julie and Nandina and IP. It looks like a beautiful book. So, such vivid illustrations, Nandina.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ortel.